Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Brandis, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Today, I want to talk about my testimony, how I came to believe in Jesus Christ or Yeshua and God, the living God, Yahweh. It's just going to be a brief testimony because I have been talking a little bit in my couple of my previous videos about Daniel and some of the stories in Daniel, but I realized that I hadn't really introduced myself or even kind of talked about me or why I believe or anything like that. So I just kind of want to do a brief thing just in case anybody's wondering. And I want to start off by saying I make these videos because my faith is very important to me. Um, and I also realize there's a lot of misconceptions about Christianity and just people who are Christians. So that's kind of what I want to address. And what brought this about was I had a conversation with a coworker, and I know that's something you're not supposed to do at work is talk about politics and religion, but it happened. And this person mentioned that they were a nihilist and how they didn't really believe in anything. And I wanted to know more. I've heard the term nihilism, but I didn't know a lot about it. So we kind of had a conversation, and this person was much younger than me, much younger than me. Um, but my philosophy is just I like to listen to everyone's point of view. So anyway, I told a little bit about why I believe and also my journey and how I came to be a believer. And so I wanted to share that with you. I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. So I was raised in the church. My mom and dad gave their lives to Christ at very young ages. Um, I believe it was around 6 years old for both of them. And it was just a natural thing for them to teach us about Christianity. My grandmother believed in it, her mother. So this is like a long line of believers, as well as my dad. And that's another story for another time. But I was raised in the church, went to Sunday school, and I would say up until my late 20s, I considered myself probably a surface Christian. And what do I mean by surface Christian? That is, I knew how to pray, for the basic things, for my family, just little stuff. I consider it kind of like if you're in a relationship with someone and you really like them, but you really don't have any intention of, you don't have any intention of like getting any deeper with them. That's kind of how it was. I would describe my relationship with God and with Jesus. It's like, okay, yeah, I know about it and I know about them. I know about the story, about the crucifixion. I know about Genesis from the beginning, how God created the world, the 7 days, all the things that you're taught in Sunday school. That's about as far as I went with it. And I would say probably, yeah, like at my mid 20s or mid to late 20s, we were going through some difficult situations and in my family, financial situations. And it seems like every turn that I made, every decision that I made just did not work out. So it was like, everything felt like it was a failure or that I was a failure. So I really had a hard time in understanding these things and really just kind of looking toward the future and trying to see a bright future. And I will kind of pause right there and say that when I was younger, I was a really, really avid, like, I love to read. I still love to read, but I just consume books, my brother and I, the little golden books. Whenever they had the Scholastic Book Fair at school, it's like I was a person that was going through the leaflets trying to figure out, oh, what books am I going to get? I can't wait to, get these books, even though we couldn't afford, and I didn't want to ask my parents for extra money to buy books. Whenever the book fair happened at school, it's like I would just I can't think of any other word than salivate at like all of the different books that was available that I couldn't get. But my dad, who is a teacher, he realized how much I loved reading. They both did. And so he introduced me to the library for like a second or third time. And that's when I discovered, oh, I can check out all these books about different subjects. And I got into young adult books. And then as a preteen, you get into romance novels. And I went from like the 200-page novels, like the Danielle Steele, to like the 600-page novels. And I would devour those books in like 2 weeks and just go and get another one and another one and another one. And so by the time, fast forward to my late 20s, when we were going through this situation, I couldn't afford to buy books. For some reason, I didn't have access to the library. And again, we were going through this difficult situation. And so I kept asking my mom, I'm like, I'd see her pray and I'd see her with her Bible. And she wasn't like the phrase that's coming to my mouth is a Bible thumper, but she did have a very strong belief in God. And she just always kept going. Like it seemed like nothing really got her down. And I kept asking her, I'm like, where does this come from? Why is your faith so strong? I don't understand. Like, I just kept asking her and asking her. And then one day she finally said, you need to figure this out for yourself. And the way she said it was, she was just really calm. There was nothing mad or furious or anything about her response. It was just very matter of fact. And it just kind of like pierced me, and I was silent. I was like, you need to figure this out for yourself. And that just kept rolling around in my head. And so I had my own personal Bible, very basic Bible. And that was really pretty much the only book that I had to read. So I just started from the beginning. I started from Genesis. And, God created the world in 6 days, and rested on the seventh day. And, just started from there. And the more I read into it, the more I realized, oh my God, this book is amazing. Because I had read so many fictional novels, which is why I mentioned that story before. Not just to talk about how much I read, but the stories in the Bible, just the people, and oh my gosh, the unaliving, because I guess you can't say certain words on YouTube. The unaliving and the family members being together and in a situation that you're not supposed to be, and it was just like, oh my God, what these people, it's like it was better than anything I ever saw in a soap opera. I was like, Young and the Restless, all that, they got nothing on what's happening in this book. So I just kept reading and reading and reading and reading, and I basically figured it out for myself. Because the more I got in touch with those words, the more I started to fall in love with God and the miracles, and I started to understand. And it's like I looked at the world differently, and I realized that there were a lot of flawed people that he chose. They weren't perfect people. I mean, some of these people were just like, oh my, yeah. They were just like really flawed. And it kind of makes you sit back and say, if God can choose and use these people and still make their lives much better, why wouldn't he, if he loves me, why wouldn't he also do the same for me? And so I started to relate those lessons, and everything just started to make sense. It really started to make sense. And then I realized that some of the current books that are available at that time and even now, and I'm not going to mention any names, it's like all of their information is basically pulled from the Bible. It's like I'm reading this thing on how to, let's say, manifest something. And it's like, all of this is ancient wisdom. It's all ancient wisdom. And it's in this one book. And this book is free in certain situations. It's like they used to be able to go to a hotel room and a Bible would be there. But the information in the Bible is just so powerful that if people actually read it and not just went to church and had somebody interpret those things for you, like, you would be so powerful. And even talking about it now, my voice is raising and I'm getting a little hyped because it's just that's the thing that really activates me is the Bible. And I realize not even all the books are in the Bible. There was some that were taken out, and it's like, then that sent me down another trail, a rabbit hole of discovery. And it's just, yeah, it's just amazing. And so that's why I am a believer. Because not only just the things that God has done in my life and has protected me from, they're too numerous to even talk about or even to recall. But yeah, it's just, you get a transformation. And I have been transformed, just like physically, spiritually, of course, mentally. I have been totally transformed. And I understand when people have, I guess that's why I can be a little bit more patient when people have so many things to say about the Bible. Because it's like, when you know something is true, you know it's the truth. And so this person that I was talking to, my coworker, no matter what they said, it was like kind of little jabs here and there about, the Bible or heaven. And it was like, hey, if that's what you want to believe, that's what you want to believe. There are some gifts that people have to, I guess, like evangelism and things like that. And I'll get into that later because I realize there's so many avenues to talk about when it comes to the Bible that it's amazing. And so I understand, as a young person, or as even anyone who is confused or never had any idea about the Bible or Jesus, Yahweh, God, or Yeshua, that there can be some confusion, especially when you see some of the preachers that are out on TV and they're just asking you for money. And that's another thing. You don't need a middleman. Like, you can have a teacher, you can have someone to help you interpret information, but that is the whole reason why Jesus sacrificed himself, why he was crucified, was for our sins, so that there is no barrier between us and God. And I can go on and on and on and on, but this is what gets me activated. And I realize this is not going to be popular with a lot of people, but if I could reach one person, whether it's today or tomorrow or 15 years or 20 years from now that comes across this video, I would say it's totally worth it. It is totally worth it. It is. I always, I guess, associated with, if you want to be in a relationship with someone, you have to take the time to get to know them. You have to actually spend time with them. And that is the same way with God. He is available. He loves you. And he wants to be there for you. But he also is this supreme being, and that might turn some people off, but he is, that wants to share the wonders of this world and let you know the joys, and that even in the darkest situations, he walks with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And that is so powerful when you have situations that you just don't know how to deal with and you feel alone. But you can go out and say, my mom used to say something. She said, you can drop me off in the middle of the desert and I guarantee you somebody will come pick me up. And that blew my mind. And I was like, where does that confidence come from? The confidence was because she was a believer, and she had been a believer since she was a child, because she had been through certain situations, health issues and everything. So she had a very long history of it. So I guess my takeaway for this video and how I will conclude is, if you have any questions, or if you just are wondering about God, or you feel like, I feel like this calling, or I want to get, just start, because the information, there's lots of answers in the Bible. There's lots of responses. And yeah, Ask someone. Um, he will give you discernment. He will give you what is necessary. Everything you need is in God, and it is in Jesus Christ. And I know a lot of people have a problem with that. But for me, I am all in. And I mean totally all in. And I know that brings a lot of heat, and you put yourself out there, and I debated for a long time about doing that, but it's worth it to me. And when I talk to people and they seem so confused about certain things, and I was in those situations, that's my advice. Turn to God. You just little steps, even little prayers, God, show me the way. God, be with me. And he will draw you nearer to him. It all sounds like fairy tales and everything, but it is not. It's not. I can honestly say it is not. So, again, I'm not doing these videos for the glory of myself. I'm doing it for the kingdom. And I hope that it helps someone else. And if it does help, I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe. It's just, if it touches you, great. I have done what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Just keep tuning in. There's a wealth of content on YouTube, not just from me and what I have and what I plan to have, but also from other creators. And it's okay just to check them out and just to see. So I hope you do. And yes, I'm going to say the corny line, Jesus loves you. There's lots of people out there that love you and that want to see you win. It's not all doom and gloom. So anyway, I hope this message helps. I appreciate you and I love you. And if you got this far from me rambling on and talking about my testimony and how much I love Jesus and God and the Bible, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope you tune in for the next video. Until then, goodbye and God bless.